Hi guys, what is going on, and welcome back to another video on Conqueror's Blade. So, I very recently did an infantry ranking tier list thingy, we'll call it something like that, and I felt I was perhaps a little bit harsh on the Pike Militia. And I thought, well, let's go and actually have some games with them, revisit them, see what they're like in the current meta, because the reason I was quite harsh on them at the time was I felt kind of the meta had overtaken them. And so I've been playing them a fair bit over the past little week or so, kind of getting back into them a little bit, and to some extent I think some of my comments in that unit training video were kind of true. The meta has kind of overtaken Pike Militia a little bit. I don't think they are the tier 6 unit that they once were. They aren't quite the god tier, but they are still very good, and for 110 leadership they are pretty hard to beat. Now, in terms of veterancy line, there's really only one way to go on these guys, because you're going to be wanting the double hit, and you're going to be wanting the bracing stun. So that means they can hit 2 units at once, and when they hit a unit, it causes stun. And it's that, in conjunction with the Tyke formation, that actually makes them such a viable unit, or makes them so good for a 2-star unit. And the damage on them is actually really rather nice. Of course, they're super cheap to run. A kit cost is what, 517, so they're ridiculously cheap to run, so they're perfect to fit in a loadout. And because they're only 110 leadership, they fit into most loadouts. You can still take a couple of heroic era units and just squeeze these guys in at the end, or whatever you want to take. They seem to fit in really nicely, so I often find them kind of in my warband. Veterancy line wise, obviously the breakthrough doctrine for the extra damage to units. And of course, increased bracing damage. There's no point sticking a bracing stun damage, doctrine on these guys, because they already, as we just saw from that veterancy line, have a bracing stun, and they're not going to get a double one, so there's no benefit to that. Of course, you could throw something like the charge on them, but it's going to be such a crap charge, it just doesn't seem worth it to me. So I'm just going for those piercing defense increases, and just trying to give them a little bit more health, just to make them very, very slightly more survivable. And that really is all I'm going to say on them. I think we'll just hop straight into a battle with them then, see how we've been getting on, and see what we can do with them. So for our first clip, we are on Harbour City, and I just wanted to briefly cover their kind of anti-berserker potential. Now obviously you've got to take it with a little bit of a grain of salt. One, we managed to get them pinned right up against the front, and we do have guns in the rear for support, but actually we're able to convince these unit of berserkers pretty convincingly, and they don't really last very long. Now, a lot of this comes down to the fact that when these berserkers are attacking, as again there with the second group, they are hitting the front of our pikes without rage mode, right? They've not got any rage built up and not in berserk. And then by the time they build up enough damage to go into berserk mode, they've already lost the bulk of their health to the front of the Pike Militia, because they get perma-stunned until they get the berserk mode on. If a unit of berserkers hit you and they're straight in, they've got their full rage bar full and they go straight into Zerg mode, then they'll slaughter your Pike Militia in seconds. So it's very dependent on the fact that they're not in berserk mode, at least at the start, so therefore they can continue to be stunned. But given, how much of a problem berserkers are on the battlefield at the moment, these are, for 110 leadership, actually a relatively viable counter, as long as you've got a little bit of support with you as well. Kind of a similar situation here. I don't think the berserkers would necessarily have cut through the entire team here, but you can see them getting stunned at the front, until they go into that berserk mode. I just find them to be, these Pike Militia, to be a relatively effective counter against them given their cost, and they rack up quite a bit of damage, particularly when you've got team support here, so you can just be applying that sort of continuous ticking bracing damage without really taking any return damage, because we've got those friendly paladins in front of us. So yeah, I'm finding them to be quite an effective budget berserker killer, really. And we actually hunt down the remainder of these units here. Managed to catch up with the Prefecture Pikes, who actually do a surprising amount of damage on that counter charge back, but still, with the friendly support, it's enough to easily overwhelm them and kind of drive the last few people out of the city. And of course, couldn't resist a free cheeky little hero kill that I could grab with my Pike Militia. But the next point I wanted to make is that these are a disposable unit, right? So we're on this tower, on Riverlands, no one wants to advance. I've got the cheapest unit, it makes sense for me to go, right? And when I start to go, actually, it draws the whole team in, so it's really a benefit. And I just push straight into the Landsknecht, and actually, it's quite effective. They try and go for charge, but it doesn't really do a lot because we get the friendly support pushing up there anyway. I keep pushing forwards, straight into these palace guards. You can see the ticking bracing damage we're getting, even against what is now a very effective unit like these palace guards. And we are getting kills against this heroic era unit. Shows what these Pike Militia can really be like. But the main point for this is the fact that they're a disposable unit. This isn't a unit that you necessarily should be aiming to get huge kills with. If you're trying to look after this unit, run them all the way to the end of the match, try and keep them alive, then you're playing them wrong. If it's a choice between sacrificing your 110 leadership Pike Militia or your teammates' 300 shield maidens, you should be the one sacrificing the unit. And that's why I'm leading the way here, pushing my unit straight into the Janissaries. Okay, I'm taking the damage. Nicely, actually, it means I'm getting the kills, but it keeps the more expensive unit like the Seregs still alive without taking extra range damage that they really don't need to be taking. So it's about using the unit as a pushing unit, and if you get kills with it, all the better, because it's certainly a unit that has potential to do that. But realistically, I think more than anything, it's a disposable unit. It's the unit that allows you to be a bit rash, allows you to push into situations without too much fear, because it's only 110 leadership. What are you really going to lose? Interestingly, in this situation, I'm a bit too slow getting into these berserkers, and you see they're now already into the berserk mode, and they just absolutely cut through us. So that's what I was saying about when they get into berserk mode and you've not done enough damage against them, then they kill you really rather quickly. As I try and make a run for it, unfortunately get shot in the back by a stray arrow, and that spells my demise. And then we're on to a little bit of Conqueror Castle, because I just wanted to point out that it's not only their anti-infantry capacity, which they fulfill pretty well, but they have a few other uses as well, as we'll find out in a minute. Just trying to defend the B point because we'd already lost A, kind of having a little bit of a look around at really what was around us, what we could see. Decided to pull back through here, and I was going to go and actually to the base point because I was worried they were going to start to pressure base. Coming down, Calf keeping an eye behind me. I see that short sword go past on his horse, and yep, they're coming down. Oh no, Armigers, brace. Bob. They defeat Cav, particularly Armigers, perfectly fine without really any trouble at all. And we didn't really even lose a single unit there. But of course, if you get hit by Hussars, that will be a slightly different story. And so that really sums up my feelings on Pike Militia. I think they have fallen slightly from where they were 6 months ago. Not because the unit itself has got any worse, but the meta has changed. But they are, however, still a fantastic unit for the cost. They can still be really effective, and they can tackle units, far more expensive and far higher level than themselves. But anyway, that's all we've got time for today. Hopefully you've enjoyed the video. Do let me know what you think in the comments down below, and I shall see you all on the next video.